Welcome back to another Halloween the Game video. And in this video, I'm going to show you some footage of a new trailer that was released the night he came home, reimagined. And also, stick around because there was an interview that was released with two of the IllFonic developers. They put out some good information about the game. Without further ado, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like the video. Let's get to what you came to watch.
The iconic 1978 film Halloween hauntingly tells the story of a small child who viciously murders his older sister Judith on Halloween night in 1963. After spending 15 years at Smith's Grove Sanitarium for his incomprehensible actions, Michael Myers plots his escape and begins his blood-soaked journey back to Haddonfield, Illinois. This is where our single-player story mode begins. Players take the role of Michael Myers and experience the critical moments of the night he came home from an entirely different perspective. How did Michael manage to escape from Smith's Grove Sanitarium? What actually happened at Phelps' garage? And how did the truck end up abandoned on the side of the road? These are just a few of the burning questions that players will get first-hand answers to as the team aims to provide supplemental story content that complements the original John Carpenter classic.
My name is Jarred Gerritzen. I'm the Chief Creative Officer at IllFonic.
My name is Jordan Mathewson. I'm the Design Director at IllFonic.
Talking about Halloween, the video game, and super excited. It's spooky season for you.
I am more than excited, and I think our entire studio is, to be able to work on such an iconic horror franchise. This is definitely the one that started so much, so to be able to bring it to life in the modern day in gaming form is just so, we're really excited to do it, and hopefully everyone else is excited to play it.
IllFonic is known for asymmetrical gameplay. Can you explain what that is to listeners who may not understand at least that part of the genre?
Yeah, I mean, asymmetrical states that there is asymmetry to the multiplayer team dynamic. So there is a singular killer in this sense, Michael Myers, and then there are multiple four humans that are on the other side. And to present that in kind of sports terms, you can think of baseball as a great example. Each inning kind of consists of an asymmetrical dynamic that creates gameplay, and we're doing the same, but with putting the Halloween movie to an asymmetrical format.
What can players expect from the narrative?
There is going to be a story, and it is surrounded by the 78 film. So you will play as Michael Myers, and you're able to go wreak havoc in Haddonfield. And we're not really getting too deep into that because that is kind of a beat that we're going to be sharing a little bit later. But yeah, it's really exciting. The big thing about our past games has been, a lot of people really love them, but I think that we do a really great job at adding a little bit more to the universe. Just grounded Halloween game that is not just IllFonic. It's the people that run Halloween. We're working with John Carpenter. Can't really get into deep about that, but the big thing about this is we're being told the secret sauce. We're being told the things that they've held back for the filmmakers have known, but they're giving us all of those details that really allow us to make sure that this is going to be the most cued in experience, that's interactive experience that anyone's ever had with Michael Myers. It's very, very exciting.
How does working with these folks from the 1978 original, how does that bring in the atmosphere into the game?
Just a multitude of kind of cross collaboration that happens, and something that's been really enjoyable about kind of exploring this is really kind of bringing together two different sides of entertainment into creating something that goes above and beyond what either can do on their own. I think there's amazing sets of skills and ideas and kind of the entire ethos of the Halloween franchise on one side, and what that did in film, and kind of how audiences watched and experience that throughout time, especially going back and looking at the 70s and kind of how that played out. So to be able to bring that together into games, we're able to bring what we know about it and the things that we know about gameplay and how that really influences players and how they're moving through environments and understand, parsing different things and just experiencing either the story itself, kind of like how Jarred was talking about, or the multiplayer feelings of actually trying to build up Michael to be this powerful shape that we can recreate that feeling that you saw in the movie of those characters and what they were feeling on screen. We want to be able to translate that into the player that's actually on the behind the keyboard or the controller. So to be able to work together so closely in ways that are very creative and focused on trying to tell stories, but also could reconstruct a feeling that was so iconic to that time period, as well as just the movie itself as it came out into the wild. So it just creates so many different opportunities to just talk and discuss how we can translate that, present kind of what we know about the gameplay to them and show them how we feel this is what Michael would feel like if you're actually controlling and attacking or doing all these different things in the environment to recreate what they were doing back on camera so many years ago. So it's really magical to be able to do stuff like this and work with people that have been a part of that original concept and idea and then bring it to life in a completely different way so many years later.
1978 was not similar to what the world that we're living in right now. Like, phones were still on walls connected to with a cable. TV channels, like radio stations, there was no computer in everyone's hands. And so if things are going down, it's a completely different world. But not only that, but like the decor, the style, the ambiance of the world is so different. I mean, that's the really exciting part, is like a lot of our devs were not alive in the 70s. So it's been kind of fun just being in a meeting and saying like, hey, when did push button phones start? When did we stop using rotary phones? When did a LAN, I almost called it a Wi-Fi, but like a wireless phone, when did those things come in? And it's so interesting how truly far away this film was. Like, we see it because we've seen it in multiple versions of, up-resed in some way or polished in some way, where it's like we could watch it on our DVD players and our high-end TVs. But the end of the 70s was a really long time ago. And it's really cool because our team has just done this killer job really capturing what I call the tackiness of the 70s, because it's like you get a lot of the wood, all the wood grain, the crazy patterns of carpets, the crazy patterns of all of this stuff. And we're not even embracing like the really crazy parts of it. We're just kind of doing the normal Americana. So it's this really fun experience that even when I play today and a new asset comes in or new pieces come in, it's like, man, this just reminds me of my childhood. And it reminds me of that era of, even my own house that was built in that era. There's parts of it where like that like tacky wood grain, that stuff that was so, just American style. It's just really fun to see, like, we're doing a period piece here. Like, it's very true. It's very, very true to that film. I'm super proud of what we've been doing.
We're going to talk about Michael Myers now. What differentiates him versus your previous games? Because you've done loads. You've done a Predator, I believe. You've done Jason Voorhees as well. What makes him different?
We choose the IPs that we do. Like, there isn't a publisher that comes to us and says, you're doing Halloween next. So a long while ago, we spoke with Malik and Ryan, and it was just kind of like a getting to know you thing. We really clicked and vibed really, really well. Like, there was just this kind of like, everyone just got it. And it was really cool. And when we got off the phone, it's like, give me a weekend. I'm going to go think about it. And luckily enough, it was kind of like a long weekend. And I started thinking like, what what is the difference between Michael and Jason? And there are, like, to the average person that doesn't watch horror films, they're both these silent killers. They're both like just relentless, but that's where the kind of their vibes stop. Jason is this big giant bull in a china shop, and Michael is more like a coiled snake just pouncing and ready to get you. And it's really cool because as I started to think about those things and started to talk to Jordan more and more about it, it was one of those parts where it's like they're so similar, I guess, in the fact that like they're these silent killers that just have this ability to be at the right place at the wrong time. But Jason's like smashing through. You could kind of hear him coming around. Michael is this just out of nowhere killer, and he just is so just it's just like a cobra. It's just like a snake that just comes out of nowhere. And it's so funny because we started to think about like mechanics and how we could capture that. And we figured out a mechanic that allows us to do that, just come out of nowhere. And it's so rad because we have played all these games, and there were times in Predator you'd hear the clicking, and he was more like a jungle cat where he'd just stalk you, and you could tell he was stalking you because of his clicking, and then you would have to deal with it and contend and run away. With Jason, he would be, smashing around or maybe smashing through a door, and the killer clowns, you'd hear their clown feet. But when you heard him, that was where that tenseness is. With Mike, he just comes out of nowhere. And it's so funny because when we got this mechanic working and we would just be playing and we would be talking like, oh, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to do this or that. Like, he literally shows up in the worst time. And it is so jump scare. It's so horrifying. It's definitely one of those things where, after F-13, we really wanted to make, different styles of games where, Predator is this action horror thing, but, it's in the jungles. You feel kind of, because it's so large, you don't feel like constraints where you can't run anywhere. Ghostbusters is, goofy ghosts running around, and Killer Clowns was open again. But like, this game is very much us returning to that horror shock, just scaring the crap out of you because of Michael's mechanic that he can show up out of nowhere, just like John Carpenter did so long ago. And I think that kind of like sense of you see the room is empty and you get to that lull of like, oh, everything's good, and then Mike shows up out of nowhere. It just means like you can't trust anything, and that's that really great horror vibe that we captured in this game.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that you see pretty quickly with Michael in the movie is he likes to stalk. So we wanted to make sure that was a big part of reinforcing his gameplay, was making sure that we were establishing a system of several systems. We have a lot of systems in play to make sure that this is all happening, of course, but to focus into it, it is about making sure that you are stalking particular targets and focusing in on and picking and choosing as you're going through, whether it's in story mode or in multiplayer. It is about waiting and watching and picking the opportunity to strike that's going to give you the best possible chance to actually get your victim and kill them in the best possible ways. So there's been a lot that we built around that, and then like Jarred said, mechanics around movement and becoming part of the shadows, I think is what I'll say. And as far as like what it recreates, it makes sure that you're able to move in and out of spaces and pop up around corners and make sure that you're in command of the locations that you're at, so that you're able to really freak people out and create those just organic jump scare moments that have happened since early times in development, before we really had much at all. The ability to do this was just such a different feeling than what we were used to give somebody kind of a new mechanic around having just much more freedom of navigation beyond what the other players are. So it's really an interesting thing that's already started from an early point in development and has just continued to get better and better as we begin to layer in and build the rest of the game. So to see it in its final form is going to be just extremely exciting to unleash on the world.
You guys continually said this brand new mechanic. Has anybody else ever done this before?
Not that we know of. There's things that are related as far as kind of how it operates. I think there's always a general direction you want to go when you're building something like this, but as far as how we've kind of catered the specifics and the rules and kind of the ability itself and how it functions and what it gives to Michael as the player Michael, it goes beyond what I've seen before and starts to establish some very unique things in the back and forth of a multiplayer game.
Yeah, it's called Shape Jump, and pretty much it allows you to move around the map and appear and reappear when no one is looking, essentially. So if you're moving through a house and you're not looking at a certain area, if I'm in that area, I can appear in that area. I can essentially jump into that area. And so it allows that very John Carpenter, Michael Myers out of nowhere thing. And I honestly don't think anyone has done it in this form because it's so OP. Because it's truly like it can only be done in an asymmetrical game. It can only be done in a horror game. It's one of those things where I take a lot of pride in our mechanics in our game and are true to the feature of the product. Like, you know, I'm extremely proud of what we did with Predator. I'm extremely proud of everything that we've done in all of our games. But like, this is one of those where when the idea kind of struck, was like, oh my God, this is in theory what's going to change the game. And this is in theory what's going to be the most Michael Myers-y thing. And I still remember, you know, presenting it to Malik and pitching it to him. And he got it, and then we started working on it. And then when it got into game, and because like that's the thing, like when we come up with design ideas, Jordan and I, you know, we go get a beer, we you know, get on a call, and we talk about this mechanic idea in theory, just off of like, you know, verbal, and then it goes into paper, and then Jordan breaks it up into all of the different departments that need to do it, and then he works with the team to make the thing, you know, happen. But when it happened and it was in and it worked, just that was the thing where it's like, holy crap, like this is horrifying, because there are all of these rules that we've set, there are all of these counter rules that can be done to kind of balance it out or to protect you. There are all of these things, but this is kind of like, you know, capturing Michael Myers, where he doesn't run, never does he run. And that was the biggest thing, is, you know, before we said like, let's go for it, you know, it was one of those like, okay, can we do this? What are the systems? What are the rules? What are the core, you know, pieces? And luckily enough, like this is our 5th asymmetrical horror game. So Jordan and I are pretty good at this, of like theorizing and kind of pulling pages from other things. But when it came in and that first time that like Jordan was like, okay, come in here. And I looked around, and then I looked the other way, and then I looked back, and now Michael's like right there. It was so horrifying. And it was one of those things where like, this is going to make like the multiplayer horror space completely change, I feel, because like Michael is like, he's one of the dudes. He's, you know, I feel like there's a battle for, you know, the crown for sure, but he's definitely part of the royal family. And I genuinely feel like we captured this mechanic of the truest Michael Myers thing that John thought of all of these years ago, and it is just as horrifying in a game, especially if you're half paying attention, trying to do something, like you're on a phone with a cop trying to get them to come into to play, and then Michael Myers just shows up out of nowhere. It's just it's wild. It's really fun and horrifying.
Greetings from my bath, festive friends. The holidays are overwhelming, but I'm tackling this season with PayPal and making the most of my money. Getting 5% cash back when I pay in 4. No fees, no interest. I used it to get this portable spa with jets. Now the bubbles can cling to my sculpted but pruny body. Make the most of your money this holiday with PayPal. Save the offer in the app.
Ends 12/31. See paypal.com/promo terms. Points can be redeemed for cash and more. Pay in 4 subject to terms and approval. PayPal Inc. and MLS 910457.
How do you balance it for the multiplayer? What are the survivors of the town of Haddonfield, should they survive? Ha ha ha. What do they do to make sure that Michael Myers doesn't sneak up behind them? How do you balance that?
I think that's the fun part of working with this type of stuff. There's always challenges involved, and making sure that we design a foundational, a very good approach to the fundamentals of the game are important to make sure that we can start going down paths like this, because then we have a lot of different options in letting and providing the citizens of Haddonfield a way to fight back, because there are always going to be moments where that feels overpowering and that feels rough, but always having a backup plan to that. And with the civilians and multiplayer, they are looting, they're looking for things, they have items that they can find, they're looking for ways to prepare for this. And we do have, and we will talk about in the future, things that actually interact a little bit with shape jump and allow you to get a little bit of a leg up, while not completely, but give you those opportunities. And it's all about making sure that we're creating those opportunities for the civilians so that they know that there is a possibility to get out, get away, or get out if they find the right thing, or just in the right situation. Sometimes, we have NPCs that exist in the map that you're killing, as Michael as well, that are still in multiplayer, and they can throw a wrench in the plan, or they can create a diversion to bring Michael away from you. There's a lot of things that really ease that feeling of being punished by such a mechanic. And it's just about making sure that we are very diligent about exploring all of those options, and also having a development team that also thinks outside the box when it comes to play testing, and understanding what people online are willing to go to actually make things just impossible for other players. So we really do think through a lot of that stuff from the very beginning, and that's what makes having so many games like this under our belt helpful, is we're able to kind of see a lot of that stuff. Not that we can catch all of it right away, but once we get the mechanic in and we kind of pre-plan for things, we then begin to discover the other moments or situations that just feel bad, and make sure that we're kind of tweaking all the dials that we've already built. And then in the worst case scenario, we're adding new things that can kind of counteract and build a fair play space.
So you guys have said that you can command and equip NPCs. Can you give me some details on how this is going to change the game a little bit?
Yeah, this is probably one of we've been kind of brewing on it and using bits of it throughout our previous games. Like we've realized that having an NPC presence in general is really helpful to just establish more things for people to interact with and more interesting outcomes to happen, because it just creates a game piece on the board that is unpredictable. And to a point it's predictable, but it can also be very unpredictable. So the ways that we can focus on building these townsfolk is trying to focus on how do each sides interact with it. Michael's pretty obvious. He's got his stalking and killing and everything that's pretty straightforward. But on the civilian side, we wanted to make sure we provided an interaction component to that, and how they're actually going into, these townsfolk are unaware. So the idea is that the civilians are going into these houses and trying to find and rescue. So it means talking to, convincing, and then using items that you've picked up in the environment to provide them that then they will help you fight back if you're having them follow you around. So it is very much an interactive management of finding and helping people, but also just trying to keep yourself safe, because when Michael comes around the corner and you're with a couple other people, like, are you going to try and fight back for their sake, or are you going to save yourself and jump through a window and let them deal with it? It's definitely thrown a lot of really interesting and fun encounters together, and we can't wait to see how that expands and people explore those interactions and what it can mean for the moment-to-moment gameplay.
And really, it's a big reason for a lot of that is because of what we've been learning over the years. So like when we did Predator, we added NPCs into it, and we noticed that people were playing the game by themselves, just running around killing NPCs as a predator. And then we did Ghostbusters, and Ghostbusters was that iterative of like, okay, let's build the game from the ground up to allow people to play by themselves and get a story and get this other element. And that's been the big iteration and evolution of this from the last. And keep in mind, Clowns was like it was in the roadmap, but that was a co-development. That was not like Ghostbusters, where it was like IllFonic's big focus, and we really are doing that with Halloween, is that evolutionary, technology step where we really want to go to that single player ratchet up, where we've partnered with a company called Pollard, who's did Karma last year, and they're really awesome, and they've been added to our horsepower to make sure that the single player can be a much bigger and more robust thing. But the rad part is, because of everything that we've learned with our multiplayer games, is we really want to make that element of single player be able to kind of move into multiplayer, and multiplayer feeling like a single player experience where you have chaos and the town, the townspeople running around being afraid or being scared, and it just adds to that layer of like the insanity and madness and fun, because it needs to be fun. It needs to be a really good part of it, but IllFonic needs to evolve each game. Like we can't just do the same thing, replace the killer and change the map. We need to make sure that if you have all of our games, we want you to play every single one of them. And depending on your mood, I want to go and wreck shop as a ghost, or I want to go in and see if I could survive a clown invasion. And then, this one's going to be really fun of like, can I save Haddonfield, and can I, or can I be Michael and be this like the perfect killer, essentially. It's really exciting.
Ever thought of doing an MMO style with all the stuff that you guys have? Just people walking around into different maps and then having to face different killers. Like, it would still be asymmetrical. It would just be there, the killers could possibly team up.
Of course, but that's IPs on IPs on IPs. That's kind of like a Superman X-Men crossover movie. We love the idea, but can that happen with all of the parts? That's the big thing, because it is they are all of these beloved things, but you also want to hold that beloved thing and make sure that it's perfect.
What about DLC? You guys have been giving content support post-launch for almost all of your games.
Thank you for noticing.
Yes.
I mean,
what's
that's
the long-term plan for Halloween? Are we going to go to Haddonfield from Rob Zombie's universe? Or?
That's the thing. Like, we are like we said, the IP and the art and the world is very much 70s Haddonfield. So we're going to really stick in that. And, really, if you look at any of our games, like what did we do for all of our games? We put out content, we put out pieces, we support it, we keep the servers going. So that's really what we're gonna talk about, or what we can allude to is every published IllFonic game we really take pride in still doing. I mean, we put out a Predator weeks ago, and we're not done with that. We're not, we're really trying to support everything that we can, the best that we can.
Is this the first game the guys have made using Unreal Engine 5?
Yes, it is.
It is, yeah.
What is the upgrade to the Unreal Engine done for the stuff that you've made?
There's so many visual things that we would not have been able to do before. And I think, when you're kind of hearing Jarred earlier talk about the different wood grains and finishes and the wood paneling inside of houses and the rugs, and there's so much that just comes to life in these environments with the ways that the new lighting systems and different rendering methods are really kind of creating something that allows us to stay grounded and recreate this very realistic and very just timeless feeling map that encapsulates the 70s. There's so much you can do to really make sure that the furniture pieces and the characters and their clothing and the stuff that you're seeing on a consistent basis, those line up very much so to what you're used to seeing in real life. And to have that really extra power of the dynamic lighting and being able to flip things on and off when it comes to actually being inside structures and things, and being able to see that effect on the light in the room goes out, and now we have a really nice moonlight coming into the room that makes a completely different feeling to it, or the TV is on and casting this specific light into the room that just I haven't seen us been able to do in previous iterations. So it definitely has given us a lot of power in that regard, and it makes it feel very very much a rural suburban Illinois town that is really just incredible to witness as it's coming together, and we're really unlocking the full potential and kind of figuring out the little things that need to be done to bring it all together.
Yeah, it's metahumans, it's metahuman, rigs and all that great stuff that Epic has. It's a lot of, iteration back end, things that we're getting with it. But really it is the lighting. The lighting of Unreal 5 is, I feel like that's the biggest step towards like this next whatever the next generation looks like, because we haven't been able to really do great dynamic lighting in Unreal without using a third party product or something like that. And so it's really cool to be able to turn the lights on and off, and we put mechanics into that with Shape Jump as well, where Mike can't appear in a bright room. And that was purely from in the film where, John chose to have this scene where the house is lit and the lights turn off. We don't know why. We don't know why Mike turned the lights off, but we took that as like, oh, he needs that because he likes the darkness, and that's what we put into the mechanics. And so when that was a huge win where it's like, okay, we're doing this. Oh, we've got dynamic lights, but also the way that the lighting balance and everything is just so realistic. And that's why I think where Jordan was really going towards with like the shader technology with the lighting technology, it just makes everything look so much better and nicer, and it still runs on our current consoles, it's really exciting. It's just a really great, all of the great elements came together to really make this project really, really cool and fun.